I discovered my daughter-in-law's hidden wedding surprise, an incredible life-changing moment. Tom's hands trembled as he flipped through the handmade invitations. Each one, painstakingly crafted by Lisa, sparkled with her bright vision of love and commitment. He never imagined that a simple invitation could evoke such a whirlwind of emotion. They were adorned with delicate calligraphy, capturing the tale of Jake and Lisa, their serendipitous meeting at the town fair, the magic of their first dance, and the earnest promise whispered under the stars. But as he sat cross-legged on the floor of his garage, he couldn't shake the gnawing feeling that the upcoming wedding wasn't a joyous occasion anymore. Instead of feeling proud and excited, an insidious jealousy clawed at his heart, twisting it in knots. Tom couldn't help but feel sidelined. His son Jake was on the brink of starting a new chapter, one that didn't include him as the focal point. The laughter that once echoed in their home had dimmed, replaced by silence. Jake had become absorbed in preparations with Lisa, and Tom was left staring at old photos of happier days, feeling like a shadow in their lives. At the heart of small-town life, where barbecues and football games painted the weekends, Tom had dedicated every ounce of his hard work to this family. Being a mechanic provided for them, but now he felt like he was losing a piece of his legacy. And at the core of that fear was Lisa, the young woman from a humble background who dreamed big. Unlike Tom, who had taken pride in his blue-collar roots, he secretly grappled with his biases toward her upbringing, feeling their differences might overshadow the love Jake felt for her. As Tom glanced at the invitations again, unanticipated emotions washed over him. Just last week, he made a thoughtless remark about Lisa's DIY wedding plans. It had slipped out in a moment of frustration, his desire for a traditional ceremony with all the trimmings, the way his parents had done it. But now, he realized those harsh words echoed louder than he intended, creating gaps in the bonds he cherished. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days dwindled down to the wedding, and anticipation crackled in the air. Tom's heart raced, torn between supporting Jake and confronting his own narrow perspective. The ceremony was just hours away when he stood by the church, filled with a strange mix of dread and hope. Would he watch Jake pledge his love without acknowledging the effort and heartfelt gratitude Lisa infused into every detail? As the music surged, the doors swung open. Tom caught his breath as Lisa appeared, glowing in her gown, a testament to her vision and artistry. In that split second, he realized this wedding wasn't just a ceremony, it was the merging of families, backgrounds, and traditions. But would he embrace that union? Would he let go of old fears and doubts? Time hung in the balance, leaving him to grapple with a single, life-changing question. Could he step forward to witness love's embrace, or would he remain shackled by the weight of his past? Tom's heart thudded loudly in his chest as he watched Lisa walk toward the altar, her smile illuminating the room like the sun breaking through dark clouds. She was the picture of grace, devotion shimmering in her wide, hopeful eyes, and he imagined Jake standing there, equally enchanted. But the beauty of the moment was eclipsed by his inner turmoil, an urgent battle between acceptance and rejection. Around him, the congregation fidgeted and whispered, caught up in a wave of shared joy. Friends and family were already weaving their connections around this new chapter. Tom felt like an old thread, unraveling and fraying, disrupting the fabric of what had once been whole. As Lisa reached the front, she cast a quick glance toward Tom, and their eyes locked for a brief moment. She looked directly at him, vulnerability blooming in the depths of her gaze. For the first time, Tom saw not just Jake's future wife but a woman working tirelessly to create a family, one that included him whether he liked it or not. He felt a stirring deep within him. Could he acknowledge her sacrifices and dreams? Could he truly step forward? Moments later, as the ceremony began, Tom found himself held captive by the gravity of the vows being exchanged. Each promise echoed like a drumbeat in his soul. Jake was promising to stand by Lisa through thick and thin, to cherish her dreams even if they differed from his own. With every word, Tom's heart began to unravel those knots, slowly untangling fear from love. But as the officiant asked if anyone objected, a familiar voice in his mind whispered warnings. "You're not ready to let go of the past," it cautioned. "What if Lisa is everything your heart fears?" Just then, images of Jake as a child flooded Tom's mind: birthday parties filled with laughter, late-night talks in the garage while fixing up old cars, and afternoons spent fishing by the lake. How had it slipped away so quickly? The ceremony progressed, and the air was thick with emotion. The deep timbre of the officiant's voice echoed through the threshold as he guided them into their future. When he asked Jake to kiss his bride, the chorus of cheers and applause erupted like fireworks. But in that moment of joy, Tom stood frozen, still wrestling with his own reservations. As the couple turned to face their loved ones, a wave of warmth washed over the crowd, but Tom felt cold, like a stone statue in the midst of a celebration. What would happen next? Would he tackle his emotions head-on and embrace this new family dynamic? Or would he allow doubts to freeze him in place, leaving him an observer in his own life? Suddenly, Lisa made her way toward him, her expression shifting from joy to concern. "Tom?" she called softly. The worry that crossed her features made his heart ache. In that singular moment, he made a choice. "Lisa, wait," he said, stepping forward as though the very ground beneath him had shifted. But just as he opened his mouth to speak, a loud crash erupted from the back of the church, splitting the air and drawing everyone's attention. Faces turned, gasps echoed, and Tom felt his stomach drop. What had just happened? His heart raced again, not with uncertainty but with something deeper. He knew he had to act, and time was slipping away. Would this be a moment to confront his fears, or a moment that would separate him even further from the love surrounding him? The noise ricocheted off the stained glass windows, a loud, jarring sound that shattered the serene atmosphere. Tom's head snapped toward the entrance. People were shifting, craning their necks to see the source of the disturbance. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, tension thickening in the air. "Is everyone okay?" someone shouted, adding to the confusion. Tom's breath caught as he glanced back at Lisa. Her eyes widened in alarm, searching for reassurance amid the chaos. "Let me check it out," he said, heart pounding. He couldn't just stand there, frozen. This was a chance for him to react, to be part of something rather than just a ghost in the background. As he maneuvered through the crowd, each person's gaze flickered toward him, anticipation and unease woven into their expressions. There was no turning back, he was stepping into a role he once thought was lost to him. Reaching the back of the church, Tom saw the culprit: a large bouquet that had toppled off a table. A child, barely 4, sat on the floor, tears streaming down their cheeks as they struggled to stand up. Relief washed over him, it was nothing serious. With quick strides, Tom bent down. "Hey there, buddy," he said, his voice gentle, seeking to calm the child. He offered a hand, and the little one grabbed it, pulling himself up with a shaky smile. Tom felt a rush of warmth seep into his chest. Swallowed by the revelry of the wedding, he had momentarily forgotten the simple joys of connection. "Let's get you back to your family," he said, scanning the crowd for the worried parents. Just then, the little boy pointed to Lisa, her face still etched with concern. The moment their eyes met, she smiled at Tom, and it was as if a bridge was built between them. That fleeting moment of sharing a purpose, of being present for someone else, made Tom's heart swell. "See? You're not alone," he said softly to the child before guiding him to his mother, who scooped him up with a kiss and an embrace, gratitude dancing in her eyes. It was a scene that stirred something deep in Tom. Life was full of unexpected twists, and in stepping towards that moment, he had reminded himself of the importance of being all there for those he cared about. As he turned back, eyes still locked with Lisa's, he took a deep breath. "I'm sorry," he began, feeling the weight of unspoken words hovering between them. But before he could continue, the officiant's voice boomed again. Now, time for a special surprise for the newlyweds. Curiosity ignited as Lisa's expression shifted to one of confusion and excitement. The room was alive with energy, but Tom could feel something deeper brewing beneath the surface. What surprise could possibly elevate this emotional whirlwind? "Tom," Lisa called, gesturing him closer. "What do you think it is?" He opened his mouth to respond, but looks of anticipation from the crowd made it clear this was a pivotal moment. In that instant, the door swung open, revealing an unexpected figure from Tom's past, someone he never imagined would show up at a moment like this. A rush of disbelief coursed through him. Who could it be? And how would this revelation change everything he thought he knew about family and love? Tom's heart thundered in his chest as the figure stepped into the light. It was a woman, her long hair cascading over her shoulders, a familiar silhouette that both warmed and chilled him. Sarah. His sister. The last time he'd laid eyes on her had been years ago, in a moment that still left a bitter taste in his mouth. His breath hitched, a cacophony of emotions swirl around him. "Is that?" Lisa's voice trailed off beside him, her concern palpable. She pulled back slightly as if to gauge his reaction to the scene unfolding. "Yeah," he managed, fighting the rush of memories that flooded his mind. This was supposed to be a joyous occasion, but the weight of his sister's presence felt like a heavy anchor. "Tom?" Sarah's voice cut through the air, tentative and slightly shaky. It was the voice of someone who had spent far too long avoiding confrontation. The church fell silent, every head turning toward them. "Why are you here?" Tom managed to ask, his voice steadier than he felt. He could see the surprise and confusion mirrored in the faces around them. I found out about the wedding," she said, stepping forward despite the tension. "I didn't want to ruin anything. I just wanted to." Tom shook his head, frustration boiling inside him. "So you thought just showing up would be okay?" After everything, but his words faltered as he looked at her. There was a softness in her eyes, a vulnerability that made him hesitate. Lisa reached out, placing a gentle hand on his. "You don't have to talk about it now," she whispered, yet her gaze was fixed on Sarah, as if trying to bridge a gap he wasn't ready to cross. "Please," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm here for you. I miss you, Tom." The sincerity in her tone pulled at something deep inside him. The childlike hope that perhaps reconciliation could someday exist flickered, but it was shadowed by years of hurt. He ran a hand through his hair, fighting the urge to walk away. "You can't just waltz back into my life and expect everything to be okay," he finally said, the hurt spilling out. "You chose to leave, Sarah. You chose to leave us." Tears glistened in her eyes, the tension palpable. The moment hung heavily between them. People shifted uncomfortably, whispers flowing through the crowd like wind. "Tom," Lisa interjected softly, her eyes pleading. "Maybe try to hear her out just for a moment?" He glanced at her, her gaze steady and encouraging, making him feel a rush of warmth, grounding in his whirlwind of feelings. Taking a deep breath, he nodded slightly, having no idea what he would say next. "Fine. Speak," he said, still cautious but willing to crack open the door just a little bit. Sarah took a step closer, words laced with a tremor of uncertainty. "I know it's been a long time. I've changed. I'm not the person I was when I left. I want to fix this, if you'll let me try." The tide of emotions bubbled within Tom, the pain of their past awakening. Could it be possible to heal? Could he allow her back into his life? The crowd watched silently, the air thick with emotion and expectation. He found himself standing at a crossroads, uncertain but aware that change was coming. As he opened his mouth to respond, the officiant interrupted, lifting a glass for a toast. All eyes turned, and in that brief moment, Tom could feel the weight of what was at stake. Would he let his past dictate the future, or could this wedding be the doorway to something new? He took a deep breath, and just as he was about to speak, another unexpected figure appeared at the door, adding to the chaos. Who was it this time? And how would this new arrival impact his rebuilding effort with Sarah? The doors swung open again, and a rush of fresh air swept through the church. It felt like a scene out of a movie, where the protagonist stands frozen as the unexpected intrudes. Tom squinted into the light, and his heart sank further. There, standing awkwardly at the threshold, was their mother. Her hair, which once gleamed with rich color, had turned silver, but the same fierce blue eyes radiated disbelief. She clutched a large bouquet of flowers, as if they were a shield against the emotions swirling around her. Like dominoes falling, whispers erupted through the crowd. This wasn't just any surprise. This was the final piece of the puzzle that Tom feared was being created right before his eyes. His mind raced. "Mom?" he managed, keeping his voice steady. The past few years had been a whirlwind for everyone, and her sudden appearance felt both alarming and strangely familiar. He thought of the countless times they'd fought, her frustration boiling over as she tried to hold the family together, while he felt like he was breaking apart. "Tom. Her voice wavered, and she took a tentative step forward, eyes darting between Tom and Sarah. It was a moment heavy with unspoken words. "What are you doing here?" Sarah asked, her expression a mix of surprise and hurt. "I received an invitation and I thought maybe it was time I came back." Their mother's voice trembled, revealing layers of regret. For years, Tom had felt abandoned by her refusal to face the past, and now, to watch her confront it was jarring. Lisa stepped closer to Tom, her hand tightening around his forearm. "This is too much," she whispered, her eyes widening at the unfolding drama. Tom shrugged her off gently, his focus locked on the three of them caught in this strange web. "Everything feels like a messy reunion right now," he thought, chaos swirling around him, demanding his attention. His thoughts were fragmented. How could this moment change everything, or would it just deepen the scars? "Mom," he breathed, wrestling with both anger and a yearning for connection. "All this time, we danced around the truth. You left, Sarah left, and we're all here. What do you want to happen?" "I want to fix this," she said softly, tears brimming in her eyes. "Fix what? The years lost? The pain? Are apologies enough?" Tom's words spilled out, raw and unfiltered. His mother swayed on her feet, visibly shaken. I just want my family back," she said, her voice touching on hope and dread. Tom's heart ached, torn between the love for his family and the hurt they all carried. Could they truly mend what felt irreparably broken? In that moment, surrounded by family and friends, Tom realized this wedding was no longer just a celebration of love, it was a battleground for healing. Would they be able to turn the tide, or would the weight of their past pull them under? Before he could answer himself, the officiant's voice cut through, announcing a need for everyone's attention. Just as he lifted his glass again, the doors swung open once more. A familiar face stepped in, holding something wrapped in brown paper. What was this now? Another layer added to an already chaotic day. He felt the tension thicken around him like a storm ready to break. Would this be the signal for chaos, or a chance for healing? Tom's breath caught as he grasped the gravity of what lay ahead. The figure stepped closer, revealing the familiar silhouette of Aunt Grace. The brown paper she clutched crinkled in her grip, and her eyes darted from Tom to their mother, uncertainty etched on her face. Silence fell over the room like a blanket, the air charged with expectation. "Grace?" Sarah broke the tension, her voice shaking. "What's going on?" Aunt Grace took a deep breath, appearing to grapple with her own storm of emotions. I know this is a lot, but I can't keep this from you any longer." She glanced back toward the walled section of the church where the memories lingered, untethered and painful. "Can what wait?" Tom blurted out, the urgency in his voice veering into frustration. "We're drowning here. What else could possibly happen?" "I have something for you," she said, holding out the parcel like a treasured secret. "It belonged to your father." I found it recently, and I thought you should see it today. Her voice trembled slightly, revealing how deeply the past burdened her. Tom exchanged worried glances with Sarah and began to walk towards his aunt. The weight of the day pressed heavily on his shoulders. Did he really want to unearth more fragments of a past they had all tried to either forget or reconstruct? But that curiosity flickered in the pit of his stomach, and it pulled him closer. Open it, Grace urged softly, a blend of fear and hope dancing in her gaze. With shaking hands, Tom took the object. It felt heavier than it looked, the rough brown paper a reminder of the years spent in silence. He couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was inside held both a fragment of history and perhaps the key to an understanding he desperately sought. As he peeled away the wrapping, revealing an old leather-bound journal, the tension in the church shifted slightly. A murmur rippled through the crowd, curiosity woven with apprehension. The journal looked worn and weathered, adorning the cover an emblem he recognized from childhood, the family crest, a symbol of what once was. "What's in there?" Sarah asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Something your father wrote before everything fell apart." Grace's eyes glistened with moisture, the love and pain from her own memories alive in her words. Tom opened the journal, the pages crackling under his fingertips. The handwriting was familiar, bringing back shades of his father's presence. The first entry was dated years before Tom was born, memories poured out in inked dreams, fears, and a longing for family unity despite the spiral that would inevitably fracture them. Each word sparked feelings Tom had tucked away over the years, mixing anger with a sense of loss. "Why didn't you show us this before?" he asked, an edge forming in his voice. Grace took a step back, hands up defensively. "I thought you'd see it as a burden. I was trying to protect you all." The tension felt palpable, the air thickening as anger bubbled within Tom. "Protect us from the truth? What good does that do?" With each page he turned, voices from the past invited him in, a torrent of memories rising to the surface. Just as he was beginning to absorb the pain wrapped in the words, his mother stepped closer. "Let me see it." Tom hesitated, torn between fear and the hope that maybe this would bridge the chasms between them. Could the pages of that old journal really offer them the answers they needed? "Please," she added, her voice barely above a whisper. The desperation in her eyes mirrored his own desire for connection, but the walls built over years still felt too high. He turned the journal, offering it to her. "You read this, and I need you to be honest with me. With all of us." The emotion hung heavy in the air, a collective intake of breath from family and friends as they shifted, eager to witness and share in the revelation of old secrets. Would this lead to the healing Tom hoped for, or another bout of shattered dreams? As Tom's mother took the journal, his heart thundered loudly in his chest. The moment of truth felt charged, bursting at the seams with potential. Would they dare to face the haunting shadows of their past together? The silence draped over them, brittle yet electrified, teetering on the edge of answers and heartache. What lay in those pages could either unite them or tear them apart again. Tom held his breath, watching as his mother rifled through the pages. The room felt impossibly still, the only sound a faint rustle as Sarah leaned closer, her breath catching in her throat as she strained to see what was written. When his mother's eyes lifted from the journal, Tom saw they were glazed over, a mixture of sorrow and regret swirling within them. I didn't know he felt this way," she whispered, almost to herself, her fingers trembling against the journal's spine. "What does it say?" Grace pressed, stepping forward as if to bridge the gap between mother and son, seeking connection amidst the emotional chaos. "He talks about everyday life moments he cherished," and she paused, looking profoundly shaken. "He mentions us, about wanting to be a better father, and how he was scared of failing." Her voice broke, and the weight of unspoken words settled heavily between them. "Then why did things go so wrong?" Tom asked, his heart racing, half expecting that there would be some insight into the fractures that had formed in their family. "Because sometimes, the things we want the most slip through our fingers," she said, a tear escaping down her cheek. "I only saw him trying, but but I never really understood his struggle. Tom felt a swell of empathy for her. The journal wasn't just a relic of their father's past, it was a reminder of the dreams he carried, a glimpse into the void where love and pain coexisted. He yearned to know everything, every detail that could piece together the story they had only known in fragments. "Can you read more?" Sarah asked, her voice catching. "Please, we need to hear this. It might help us all." With a nod, his mother flipped to another page, her voice steady but filled with emotions that shadowed each word she read. "He writes about the day you were born, Tom. He said every challenge was worth it, just to hold you in his arms." Tears streamed down Tom's face, a floodgate of emotions opening as he felt the love his father had for him pouring out of those pages. The memories he had felt so distant now came rushing back, awakening a bittersweet nostalgia he could never shake. As the room absorbed the weight of their father's love and fears through his mother's voice, the crowd held its breath. There was palpable warmth in the air, a collective yearning for understanding binding them together that day. But just as comfort began to settle around them, Tom noticed another shift in his mother's expression. She hesitated, her fingers trembling over the journal before she turned to Grace. "What else did you find? If there's more we need to know." Grace took a deep breath, the weight of her role in this moment pressing heavily on her chest. There was another letter tucked inside. "It's different, more personal. I didn't want to share it unless you were ready." Tom felt something tighten in his stomach. "What does it say?" "We need all of it." His mother looked conflicted, fear mixed with a desperate need for knowledge. It was in her eyes the lingering dread that came with knowing that sometimes truth comes with a heavy price. "That's the thing," Grace said, her voice softening. "It speaks of mistakes and it could change everything we thought we knew." As the weight of those words settled on Tom's shoulders, he felt a whirlwind of emotions rising up: hope, fear, confusion. Whatever that letter contained could either tear the small thread of connection they had begun to weave together or bind them closer than ever before. Would they risk uncovering more of their father's soul, knowing it could hurt or heal? The question lingered in the air, a powerful echo that begged to be answered. Would they choose to delve deeper, revealing truths that might not only redefine their present but reshape their futures? The tension in the room was palpable, a thick fog of uncertainty hanging over them. Tom's heart raced as he shot a glance at his mother. Her face was a canvas of conflicting emotions: fear, curiosity, anticipation. It was as if they were on the edge of a cliff, staring down into the unknown, each one hesitating to take the next step. "Mom," Tom said softly, "if there's something in that letter, I think we should know." His voice wavered slightly but held a strength he didn't fully feel. The thought of more buried secrets felt like a weight pressing against his chest. Sarah stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on Tom's shoulder. "Whatever it is, we can handle it, together," she reassured him, her voice steady. Tom appreciated her presence, grounding him amidst the whirlwind of thoughts swirling in his head. With a deep breath, his mother nodded, the decision made. She took the letter from Grace, her fingers shaking as she unfolded it. The room remained eerily quiet, every eye on her, holding their breath in the suspenseful moment that followed. "Okay," she murmured, her voice small yet firm. "I'll read it." And then, as if she were summoning courage from within, she began to read aloud. "Dear Sarah," she began, the words flowing with a rawness that filled the room, wrapping around them. "If you're reading this, it means I'm no longer there. There is so much I wish I could communicate to you." Tom closed his eyes for a brief moment. The unexpectedness of hearing his father's words, filled with emotions he couldn't imagine, stirred something profound within him. He listened intently, not daring to interrupt, caught in a web of trepidation and longing. "Life didn't always turn out the way I had hoped," his mother read, her voice trembling with each syllable. "There were mistakes I made, decisions that haunted me. I thought about leaving, how I fell short of my promises." The room felt heavier with every word, like the weight of 1,000 unspoken regrets pressed down upon them. Tom's heart thudded, grappling with the weight of vulnerability laid bare before them. "And the hardest truth I need to confess," his mother's voice cracked, tears gathering at the corners of her eyes. "I loved you both, but I often let my fear define our family. I wanted to protect you, to give you a perfect life, but I was scared of failing you. I let my fears turn into walls." Each sentence stripped away the facade, revealing a man who was not just a father but an individual burdened by insecurities and missteps. Tom felt his resolve strengthening. This was not merely an admission of guilt, it was an invitation to understand. The letter continued, revealing heartfelt apologies and an urgent desire to mend what had been broken. "If you ever feel abandoned or alone, know this: my love never wavered. I hope that with every breath, you find the strength to forgive me." With that, his mother halted. There was a silence thick enough to cut, each person lost in the weight of the revelation. Tom opened his eyes, meeting his sister's gaze, then his mother's. They stood collectively in the emotional aftermath, each word sinking deep into their hearts. "What do we do with this?" Tom finally asked, the question echoing in the stillness of the room. His mother's face was a mix of resolution and uncertainty. "We face it, Tom. We learn, we forgive, and we keep his memory alive." As the shadows began to lift slightly, Grace stepped forward. Maybe we can write our own letters. To share our truths and hopes. Build something new from this." Tom nodded, feeling a spark of possibility. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but it held the promise of healing. Still, the weight of the letter's dark secret lingered, unanswered. What was the final truth? A flicker of unease passed through him as he thought of what other shadows lay hidden in their past. "Let us do it," he said slowly, determination igniting within as the next step beckoned. "But first, let us uncover everything we can't build on a shaky foundation." The moment hung there, charged with hope and apprehension, and beyond them lay a path. Unknown, each twist and turn waiting to be revealed. What truths still awaited discovery, and how would they reshape their future? The air was thick with a mix of hope and trepidation as Tom's words hung in the room. Grace shifted her weight from one foot to the other, her excitement tempered by the weight of what had just been revealed. "I'm in," she said quietly, her eyes brightening with commitment. "But where do we begin?" Tom glanced at his mother, seeking a sign of leadership. To his relief, she seemed refreshed, a new fire igniting in her expression. "We start by collecting our thoughts," Sarah said, her voice more assured now. "We write about our feelings, everything we've kept bottled up. That way, we can understand each other better." "I've got tons of memories locked in my brain," Grace chirped. "Some good, some not so great, but they all matter. It'll feel good to get them out." She glanced at the letter, fingers toying with the paper. That letter, it opened a door to so much we need to explore. "Yeah," Tom replied, his mind racing. "Let us be honest, though. It's not all going to be smooth sailing." He hesitated, thinking of the shadows both from their past and the data-filled envelope still waiting to be deciphered. What happens if we find things we'd rather forget? Sarah wiped a tear away, and a soft, knowing smile crossed her lips. "Well, that's life, isn't it? We can choose to let them bury us, or we can use them to build something stronger. Remember how this letter reminded us of Dad's love? We can honor that by embracing the whole story, the good and the bad." Her words sank deep into Tom's consciousness like roots taking hold. "You're right. We owe it to ourselves to excavate the layers. It won't just be freeing, it'll prepare us for what's to come." The conversation flowed, and it felt like a river of catharsis began to wash over them. Laughter broke through the tension as Grace recalled the time their father tried to bake cookies and ended up with a kitchen disaster. With each shared memory, they began to stitch their past together, sewing up the rips and tears. At some point, the sun slipped behind the clouds outside, casting long shadows across the floor. But inside, the light felt warm, almost nurturing. They could hear each other's voices unearthing laughter, shared joys, and even unexpected sorrow. Amid the heaviness, the bond among them grew lighter with every confession. "Maybe we should set a date," Tom suggested, the idea forming as he spoke. "For sharing and reading what we write. We can meet up at Grandma Southold Place." It felt like a safe haven. The idea sparked additional joy among them. "That's perfect." Grace beamed. "Family, nostalgia, that old blue couch definitely makes it feel like home." "I'll bring the snacks," Sarah added, smiling through her tears. "We'll make it a whole day of healing and connection." As they firmed up their plans, a sense of achievement washed over Tom. They were working towards something together, but in the back of his mind, the question loomed. What further secrets could this endeavor unearth? Would the truth from their past be purely cathartic, or would it wound deeper? "Can we agree," Tom proposed cautiously, "that no matter what we find, we don't let it divide us?" Everyone nodded, a united front promising support as much as courage. But as Tom stepped back, he couldn't help but feel an unsettling chill crawl over him. The letter had opened a chapter unlike any other, but he still sensed shadows lurking in their family history, shadows yet to be confronted. And just as the plans settled into place, a shrill ring of his phone cut through the air. Tom grabbed it, eyes wide and heart racing as he saw an unknown number flash on the screen. He hesitated, glancing at his mother and sister, then lifted the phone to his ear. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was familiar, but one he hadn't expected to hear. "Tom, it's me. We need to talk." His stomach dropped. Who could it be, and what did they want? Why now? He whispered to himself, feeling another wave of uncertainty crash over him. The path ahead was becoming clearer, but was he ready for what lay beneath? Tom stood frozen, heart hammering against his ribs. The voice on the phone felt heavy with expectation, each syllable tinged with urgency. "Tom, it's me. We need to talk." The voice was unmistakable. It was his estranged sister, Sarah. That singular moment hung in the air like a thread spun from a spider's web, fragile yet pulsing with potential. "Aunt Sarah?" he asked, disbelief coating his words. "What do you want?" "I know everything has been complicated," she started, her voice faltering slightly. "But after the wedding, after everything we confronted together, I realized I don't want to be apart anymore. Can we meet?" Tom's thoughts raced. After all that had happened, could he really face her? Each recollection of their shared past filled with laughter but also regret made his chest tighten. Yet, just beneath that was an undeniable longing for connection, an urge to heal the fractures that had haunted their family for so long. "I don't know," he replied, hesitantly. "Please," Sarah pleaded. "I want to make things right. I miss you, Tom. We lost so many years, and I don't want to lose more, not now." He glanced at Lisa, her radiant smile still imprinted in his memory from earlier in the day. The wedding had sparked something within him, igniting hope where shadows once loomed. Amid the uncertainty of the past and the weight of hidden truths, his heart whispered back the possibility of reconciliation. "Okay," he finally said, feeling a warmth rise within him. "Let us meet." A few days later, Tom arrived at the small diner on the edge of town, a place where the walls were decorated with a mix of nostalgia and the scent of freshly brewed coffee. It was situated perfectly under the old oak tree, its leaves rustling gently in the breeze just like childhood memories that had offered solace amidst the chaos of adulthood. As he entered, the familiar bell above the door chimed, and all eyes turned toward him, but he was drawn only to the table in the back. Sarah sat there, fidgeting with a napkin, her anxiousness cutting through the air like a pair of scissors. The two siblings locked eyes, and the air thickened with unspoken words. "Hey," Tom said, his voice softer than he felt. "Hey," she replied, her smile faltering slightly. They sat across from each other, the tension palpable. Orders were taken, and the sound of cutlery clinking echoed through the diner. Time felt suspended. "Tom," she began, glancing down at her hands. "I know there's a lot to unpack. I've thought about so much since the wedding, about our family. I really want to start over. Tom couldn't help but feel his wall of defenses begin to crack. You hurt me, Sarah. When you left, it changed everything. His voice tinged with resolve, holding back the flood of emotions that threatened to overwhelm him. I know, she said, tears glossy in her eyes. And I regret abandoning you and Mom. I was foolish, running away instead of facing my problems. But I'm here now, and I want to make amends. He observed her closely, searching for sincerity in her words. An avalanche of memories swept through his mind: the playful bickering, the shared Christmas mornings, the feel of her comforting presence when their parents fought. But how do we even begin to fix this? He asked, a quiver in his voice. By being honest, she answered, her gaze unwavering. I want to hear how you felt when I disappeared. I want to understand your pain. In that moment, Tom felt a shift. The desire to be open washed over him. This was the chance he had waited for. I felt betrayed, he confessed, each word carrying the weight of unvoiced hurt. I thought family meant we'd always stick together, no matter what. I know, Sarah whispered. And I failed you. I was scared of my own inadequacies and thought you'd be better off without me. No one is perfect, he interrupted, his voice steadier now. We're all flawed, Sarah. I needed you during those times. And I definitely needed you when Mom fell apart after the confession hung in the air, filling the space where distance had once thrived. Their shared grief mirrored a soft echo of familial love, each word weaving them slowly back together. The rest of their conversation tumbled forth, examining childhood memories, regrets, and hopes. Piece by piece, stigma and misunderstandings fell away. Healing could be messy but also liberating. As the sun began to dip low in the sky outside, casting shadows across the diner, Tom turned to Sarah. Can we try? Really try? She smiled through tears, the first genuine smile he had seen in a long time. Her eyes sparkled with renewed purpose. Yes. I want to be a sister to you and help Mom heal too. We can do this together. A surge of warmth wrapped around them, the strength of a bond reforged in the fires of honesty and vulnerability. Their orders arrived as they began to plan their next steps, speaking of family dinners, reconnecting with their mother, and even teasing the possibility of an outdoor barbecue. Laughter breathed through their conversation like fresh air, filling their lungs, gently sweeping away the cobwebs of their past. By the time Tom stepped out of the diner, dusk settled gently across the town, and he felt lighter, a warmth blooming in his chest. An understanding that family didn't need to be perfect, it just needed to be present. As he walked home, a smile began to break through the remnants of uncertainty. A new chapter awaited that was less about fear and more about hope. This was just the beginning. And he was ready to embrace it. So here's something I need to tell you. If you loved this story, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel, not just for the endings, but for the journeys yet to unfold. Leave a like now to show your support and help fuel the algorithm. The more, the merrier. Comment below with your feelings about this transformation, what resonated with you. And honestly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need a dose of inspiration and hope right now. Your support means everything, and we all know there's power in community. Don't wait not even one more second. Let's build something beautiful together.